welcome back to the Fallon Frequency podcast, your space for that alignment, expansion, and of course, unstoppable energy. I am your host, Fallon, and mindset and energetics mentor. And today we are anchoring into the truth that anything is possible when you shift your frequency to match what you truly desire. I had the absolute pleasure of sitting down with one of my friends and someone who fully embodies that truth. She is a total force of nature, literally and energetically. She is a professional wing foiling and kiteboarding athlete, a performance, health, and nutrition coach, and the creator of incredible kite retreats that help women reconnect to their power through the wind, through the water, and of course, that beautiful, beautiful energy. I'm so excited to welcome my friend Nadja Bianchet. We have actually met through the wind world. My partner is a foiler. If you didn't know, I'm sure I've mentioned it on a podcast, and I have been in awe of her energy ever since. Nadja, welcome, my love. I am so happy you're here. Awesome. So let's go ahead and start from the beginning, Nadja. What really drew you into this world of wind and water? You know, was there a moment in time that you realized it wasn't just a sport for you anymore, that it really was, you know, your path?
Yeah, totally. When I was growing up, I was always super drawn to board sports. I grew up snowboarding and competing in snowboarding. And when I saw kiteboarding during a family vacation, I was like, oh, this is what I want to do. But there was definitely a financial barrier to it. It was a really expensive sport to get into. My parents couldn't afford it. So when I was 19, I moved to the US and saw it again, and I took my chance and spent all my money on kiteboarding equipment and lessons. And yeah, that's how I got into it. I just put every cent into the sport.
Where did you see it first?
So first I saw it somewhere in Italy on a family vacation, and then I moved to LA, and then I saw it just in like Long Beach area and Huntington Beach area. And that's when I really went into it. I took lessons from a guy, like I looked for the cheapest option. It was the worst option. No, he wasn't qualified, didn't teach me any safety, but somehow I stuck with it.
Yeah, that's funny. What did it bring you to LA? Or
No, I came to LA through an exchange program as an
okay.
au pair, and yeah, and then I stayed.
And then you're like, hey, I'd rather do sports than watch kids.
Yeah, I mean, I took some lessons, and then I went back home, back and forth. I did uni in Austria, and then with 25, I moved back to the US, and I had a green card and everything. And during that time, I was looking for a job, and that's when I put all my energy and efforts into kiteboarding because I had time. I had no
Yeah.
job.
Love that. So you
Yeah.
know, and doing that, I mean, you've achieved since then pro status, right? In wing foiling and kiteboarding. What would you say,
Yeah.
you know, what did that early training look like for you? Or was it more of like something fun that you just put fucking a lot of time into? Or were you like, at what point, I guess, were you like, oh, I'm taking this seriously? This isn't just, you know, me having fun anymore.
Yeah, I mean, the journey was definitely super chaotic, and everyone who is in the wind and water sports industry will tell you it's a small industry and it's not very organized, you're not very supported. But basically, what happened, I just had people starting telling me that it looks like I have a lot of talent, and clearly I have a lot of passion and drive for it, and maybe I should consider pursuing sponsorship. And when that happened, I was like, me? What? No way. I'm not gonna be an athlete. But people kind of had a lot of confidence, and that confidence and support from people pushed me that direction. And then eventually I got to the point where I'm like, maybe I should try to do this because it was clearly a dream. It was something I was like, I would love to do this, but am I really the person to do that? I'm not sure. I really needed that outside push and support.
Yeah, incredible. I love that. I haven't really, you know, we are friends, you know, and know each other, but yeah, I haven't really heard that whole story before. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
You know,
A
being
lot of
both, yeah, go ahead.
sorry, a lot of ups and downs,
Yeah. It was a
a lot
journey.
of, yes, I can do this, and a lot of, no, I cannot do this.
Did
It's the
you
roller coaster.
did you ever experience any injuries or any like moments that like once you kind of committed like yes, I'm going to do this, I'm going to go pro, that kind of took you out?
Yeah, completely, totally, all of it.
More than one?
And more than once, the moment I felt like I committed to it and I put everything, my time, my energy, my money into it. And I went to travel the world and really went to stay for months at the best spots to train. I tore my ACL, then I tore my MCL, then I tore my LCL. It's all
I don't
just
even know what all
from,
those are.
I know they're all knee ligaments and just a very common injury in that sport and that discipline that I was doing, which was freestyle and park riding. And yeah, it just, the ACL took me 6 months to recover, 8 months to get back on the board. So it was a lot of pushback, but it just, made me stronger and more resilient long term.
How do you go from like a major injury to not having the mindset of like, okay, it's not for me? Like this, it's kind of like I tell people fail and fail faster. So you get this
Mm-hmm.
clarity, but it's almost like, how do you have this mindset where it didn't take you out? What was going through your head, if you can remember at the time where it's like, 6 month recovery, where you just like, get me back on the water, or how kind of can you?
Yeah, I mean, injury, I think for every athlete, and injuries are the hardest part because it's such a setback. And then also mentally not being on the water, not being able to exercise and train and do all the things. It's just such a mental thing, right? So, what, I mean, first you kind of go through a little bit of depression and I would say almost grief. And then you can't see the end of it all. You feel like you are in this injury, in that process. You don't see it getting better, but then eventually you're getting better. And then I feel like every time you have an injury or you're dealing with something, it's just your body telling you, hey, you were not approaching this right. You need to pause and rethink and readjust your approach to this whole mission. And that's kind of where I learned. I feel like every time I went through injury or a hard time is where I learned something new and where the biggest growth actually happened, especially mentally and mindset wise.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that explanation. Like I was saying
Mm-hmm.
with the fail and fail faster, I like to explain it in a way where failure is actually feedback. If it's not the
Mm-hmm.
no right now, like what feedback, what data can we get from that, and how can we adjust it and approach it? And just like what you said, it's a really great time to reflect, like how I was doing one thing and how I can do it differently, which is
Mm-hmm.
incredible. I love that. Now, being both an
Mm-hmm.
athlete and a healer, because you do freaking everything, being a beautiful blend, how would you say, health and nutrition and all these different recovery practices really became more of a part of your athletic lifestyle? Or were there any like
Yeah.
moments that you realized, it was just as important as like, pushing yourself in training?
Yeah, I actually always been obsessed with like health and nutrition, but that kind of generated or came from struggling with health issues very early on. I had an autoimmune issue and hormonal imbalances, and even as a young teenager, I would keep going to the doctors. I'm like, I'm tired, I'm exhausted, I'm fatigued, I can't keep up, I can't focus, like all these things. And all doctors would do would either send me to a different doctor that didn't have answers and give me medication. And then it would just be like an endless cycle of running from one thing to the other. And like one doctor even said, oh, it must be a mental thing. I'm like, oh my God, it's not mental. And yeah, I just learned that I had to advocate for my health and do my own research. And it's really the holistic approach of um, the mind body connection and everything works together. And you just got to be your own doctor in a sense. And going through that journey and learning about what really helped, especially with autoimmune things and hormonal things, brought me to that aspect where I became really passionate about health and nutrition and the holistic side of things.
Yeah, I love that. And I find, yeah, a lot of, the things we go through and the experiences. And once we've gotten to the other side, it's almost like we can't help but not want to show people or share our journey with people, so that they can also not go through the same struggles, right? So
Yeah,
I
save
love
them
that.
some time.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. What is your approach like holistically, or what do you like to follow?
Yeah, I have this whole program. It's called ROW, and that's like different pillars. It's an acronym. It stands for first recreate. So who first analyzing where am I right now and where do I want to go? And then we get to the next pillar, which is optimize, where we're like, okay, this is what works for me, and we need a new routine and a new approach. V stands for venture, where we want to do something we haven't done before, right? And that I encourage my clients to kind of push against the edges of their comfort zone a little bit. They don't need to take a full step outside, but we want to expand a little bit. And E is evolve, and that's just this is my new me, and these are the things that happen, and this is what I promise myself to do moving forward, right?
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. So
Awesome
that's my
approach.
approach. And every pillar has their sayings and parts to it, but it's a whole you need to record a different podcast for that
Yeah.
one.
We'll save that for the next podcast. But that is that
Yeah.
approach that you follow yourself?
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. And that is, I mean, it took me a really long time to figure out what works for me and why it works. And a big part of that practice was learning about the nervous system and understanding what's happening when I do certain things. A big thing was that I would overtrain, underfuel, constantly be tired and just inflamed. And instead of getting stronger and losing weight, I would gain weight and feel weaker. And it was just the whole, the constant hustle, the go, 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 constantly caffeinated, being in a fight or flight nervous system state instead of rest and digest. And then even when you're eating, right, you're eating something, you're like, oh, I shouldn't be eating, I'm going to get fat. You're eating standing up, or you're like judging yourself when you're eating. Your body is not going to digest and
Yeah.
absorb the nutrients the same way. So just it doesn't, like, I learned that it didn't really matter what I would eat, but I need to eat when I'm in a certain state and reframe my perception of food. It's seeing it as a friend fueling me and fueling my life rather than, oh, it's the enemy and it's hurting me. That really changed a lot for me.
Yeah, 100%. Like going back, like what you said, the mind body, the connection, and even just being present with a meal. Like so many people
Mm-hmm.
mindlessly eat, and I
Mm-hmm.
just like I see it all the time. And I used to say, like, it does matter eating healthy, but if you're, like you said, internally, like nervous system's all out of whack, it's not going to absorb the same way,
Mm-hmm.
or the way
Yeah.
you look at it. If you're looking at a healthy meal and feeling like it's the worst thing for you, your body's not going to digest that properly. So yeah, that,
Mm-hmm.
like you said, that's a whole nother podcast. But if we bring it back to the sports and things, you mentioned earlier, it was a lot of outside influence, right? That made
Mm-hmm.
you really go for it and made you go pro. Can you think of any like mentors or coaches or a certain experience that you had that really shaped how you approached your performance or how your performance is today because of, somebody that you came into contact with?
Yeah, totally. I had a really good friend who noticed my passion and my drive and talent early on, and he's like really pushing me. He was filming me and showing me the what he filmed and telling me like, hey, if you do this a little bit different, like breaking things up and changing my approach and supporting me in that kind of way really changed my progress from like, okay, progressing a little to going out every session and being like, okay, these are the three things I'm working on, and just having a goal and knowing, seeing what you're doing and that constant feedback. it really helped. And then further down the line, I had another coach in Brazil who was more a mindset coach than like focused on the physical. He was focused on the mind to really change my thinking to, instead of who am I to do this, to I deserve to be here. I worked really hard. I have a place here. And that was probably the bigger game changer than anything else, just the mental
Yeah.
aspect of it.
Amazing. Now, were either of those professionals in the sport? Like, do you feel like your own style of boarding is similar to theirs, or did you pick up anything from kind of?
No, I mean, they were like semi-professionals, but their talents were really the coaching. And I don't think a good coach needs to be able to do all the things necessarily, but just hold you accountable and really
Mm,
see what you can't see, right? Just kind of a good coach takes your blindfolds off and makes you see what you can't see.
100%. Yeah, the accountability I think is the biggest one. And
Mm-hmm.
like I say to people, like my own clients, like I'm your mirror. It's like
Mm-hmm.
I'm reflecting kind of like you said, what you can't see, but also like maybe what we need to bring some light to.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly. Shining light
yeah.
on the dark
On
things.
the things that they maybe don't want to see.
Yeah.
I was thinking about this before the podcast and, laughing about it because obviously, I mean, you do kite foiling, you do all the foiling. If anyone's not familiar, foiling's like that sport where it comes out of the water and you're like hovering. And I do have like, a surfing background and a sports background, but laughing about the time that I did my first lesson with you, because it was with you in Baja. My partner, I think, well, we know that has his trouble like setting me up for success. But and just to tell the audience, give them a little description. Basically, it was kind of wavy. I don't know what even the leaders in the board were, but I don't think it was a lot because I don't even know I had tried foiling yet. Anyways, had this board and it was homemade. So I had like, do you even know what was on top of it? It was like sandpaper or something.
I think the problem was that the board didn't have a deck pad or a proper deck pad,
Yeah,
and that really
that's
got you.
that really it really got me. Basically, it had some sort of padding, not even padding. It had like sandpaper. I'm gonna call it sandpaper for the description for the audience on top. And the way I was trying to foil is I was like on my knees, but putting the tops of my feet on. So every time I went to get up, I just like scraped it. And I don't even think we were in the water that long. We had these little like walkie-talkie things in our, the little helmet with the walkie-talkie guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember thinking in my head, because this is really kind of a few years ago before I really started to speak up and really maybe be a little bit more like yes, no kind of attitude. But basically, like I felt like my feet were being like ripped apart. And I remember being in a lot of pain. And I remember like kind of like, I don't even know how he said it to you, but I was like, I don't know. Like, I think in my head, I was like, is it supposed to hurt this much? Because like this fucking sucks.
Uh-huh.
It wasn't a pleasant experience. And then at some point, I think we were just like, let's go in and check it out, get to this other
Mm-hmm.
little beach. And my feet were bloody. And it was like, no. So
Yeah.
you had to go wing foil all the way back to the car, come back around, drive, get me, and then drop me at the campsite with my partner. And he was like, what happened? I'm showing up with bloody feet. Point of the story is
Yeah.
that this sport has definitely been the most mentally challenging thing I've ever done. Very humbling. And I think a lot of that comes from, I wouldn't say I'm cocky is not the right word. Confident. I don't know. For me, like surfing was easy. Snowboarding, I've only done a handful of times, but I could do it. Wakeboarding,
Mm-hmm.
growing up in the water, it all seemed pretty easy. Where this, I feel like, has been a challenge, a very, very big mental challenge. And the funny thing is, I don't know if I told you, you guys went the other day and did like a 10-mile downwinder, didn't you? Did you go with Cody the other day?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
So
did.
so it was kind of wavy that day, right? And it was windy. And now I'm like upgraded myself to I can go in the same water as Nadia and my partner. I couldn't do that before because I just didn't have the skills. Um, but the funny thing is I was feeling so good because I'm like, I can go where the big kids go now. Like I can go where
Mm-hmm.
it's really windy. And I don't know if it was Cody or if it was the wing already had a leak in it, but I was like in the middle of the channel and it went fucking like flat. Like it was flapping
Oh,
and I had to paddle back in. I was like, okay, this
oh,
part will forever be a challenge for me. But
it's just something that makes you grow long
right?
term.
Yeah. Well, every time, especially because
Resilient.
I'm so like up in mindset work now, and I'm like, what is this teaching me? What lesson do I need to learn from this? Like, I feel like I'm a pretty patient person, but it's funny because I feel like this sport has been that. But
Hmm.
enough about me. I'm curious with your story. Like, what has been your biggest mental challenge in mastering this sport or even mastering your own self discipline to be a pro athlete?
Yeah, I feel like the biggest challenge actually wasn't internal. It was something totally externally. And the
Mm,
hardest thing for me was realizing once I got a little bit of recognition and support from brands and my social media kind of popped off a bit, I noticed that some people really didn't like it. Some people started to either, talk about me behind their back or like
didn't like you doing the sport or just didn't like
just
this
didn't like
different version of you?
me get yeah, didn't like that version of me, basically.
Mm,
Didn't I don't know if they felt threatened in some way or, just there was something about it where I had to come to terms that, okay, if I am in this somewhat public field and being sponsored and having to post certain things for, brand requirements, that not everyone is going to like me. And that really hurt a little
yeah.
bit. Like, just getting a little bit of pushback in that area. And, some people being like, don't like who you are now as this public person. And I just realized that some people are just not my people, and my mission is to do the right thing, to be my best self, and to help people where I can. And if some people are offended by that, they're just not my people. And that was the hardest mental challenge for me.
Yeah, that's huge. And yeah, that's a really big one. I mean, I could say similar in my story when I first kind of had this idea and wanted to get out and do things on my own. It was a visibility thing, but it was also like I had to kind of, this is what I did. I kind of was like, it wasn't about me. I zoomed out, you know. At the end of the day, I
Mm-hmm.
want to make an impact, a positive impact in women's life. And I can't do that if I'm quiet and caring about what other people have to say. Right. And like you
Mm-hmm.
said, it's one of those things. I think the deeper we get or the truest version of ourselves coming out, we find our people, right? The ones that were just
Exactly.
there for the surface, they weren't meant to stay. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a hard pill to swallow. Um, but I feel like that's kind of, yeah, similar how I've tried to mentally like deal with that because that's going to come up, right? And especially if you're becoming
Mm-hmm.
a version of yourself that they don't recognize and they're not comfortable with. It's almost like
Mm-hmm.
you changing is making them uncomfortable. Why? Because they're not going to change. I feel like it
Mm-hmm.
triggers them. And instead of looking at it as like, why is this triggering me? They just aren't very kind. So I'm sorry you
Yeah.
went through that. But what would you say? Yeah, how did you get through that? You just decided that, hey, it wasn't about them, right? Or,
Yeah. I mean, just, yeah. I mean, changing just my why. Why am I doing this? Why am I trying to be this athlete and doing these camps and retreats and coaching? What's my why? And my why was really strong and it wasn't about me. And I think that's what changed it. I wasn't doing this to be like, oh, I'm so good. Look at me. I can do all these things. It was like, no, I'm doing this because it's very driven by I want to motivate and inspire others to get out and reconnect with nature and feel the same joy I feel when I'm out there. Like I feel like a kid. I don't think about work. I don't think about anything. All I do is I feel like excited and challenged and um, achieved and I don't know how to explain it. It's just such a connection. Like when I'm out of the water for 3 days, I'm like, ah, get me
yeah.
back. I don't know. I can't feel my body. I'm just in my head and being in the water and the elements and challenging myself in that way just brings me into my body. I'm not up here anymore. I hate being in my head. I just love feeling my body and challenging and working and being in wind and water and elements. It's just my why. That's my
Yeah,
why. And that
I love that.
helped me overcome that, pushback from others or certain people that I really wanted to be my friends or connect with or recognition from in some way. I was like, okay,
Not my
I don't
people.
need it. Yeah,
Yeah,
not my people.
not your
Mm-hmm.
people. Oh, I love that. Yeah. Connecting back to the why is a huge one. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
that comes up quite a bit, especially if you're pursuing something that's, bigger or going to a place that you've never been before. You've got to reconnect
Mm-hmm.
because there will, you're going to go on that roller coaster and be up, down,
Yeah.
and all around. So if you don't keep connecting back to your why, sometimes you get in this like, you get too in your head. Exactly. You said it exactly
Mm-hmm.
right. Would you say that there was a time in your path that you doubted, that this was the right choice, or did you just keep going back to that why and pushing through? I mean, obviously those challenges coming up and things like that, or did you ever not really have doubts that this was the right direction for you?
Well, I mean, yes, I mean, I feel like there's always doubt, especially when you're struggling financially or there is certain bigger issues that you run into, especially being a woman in an extreme sport. There isn't as
Mm,
much support, and things just come up, and then you're like, why am I doing this? Do I belong here? Um, but yeah, just coming back to I love this. It's pure joy for me. I want to share this with others. I'm good at it. And yeah, just coming back to that always kept me pushing forward. And also, like, doing the work. I'm doing the work.
yeah. You got to do the work.
Yeah, you got to do the work.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I actually had a conversation with someone the other day and she was, getting excited and ready to make some changes and, popped into two different things. And then their part of the conversation became like, well, you got to do the work. And she's like, oh shit, I didn't
Mm-hmm.
even think about that. Like, I don't know if I'm ready to actually do the work. Not everyone's willing to, challenge themselves and do the work and go through the spiral. And yeah, I just found it really
Mm-hmm.
interesting. So I was like, really? You're not?
Yeah.
What would you say, being in the elements, love, like you just said, you love being in the water. I mean, wind was a struggle for me for a really long time, but I think it was a
Mm-hmm.
mental barrier there. What has that taught you? Has it taught you anything about surrendering? Obviously, we can't control nature or even evolving in your own life. I mean, I feel like for myself, I have to like, I feel like nature is always teaching you, right? And to
Mm-hmm.
really just get out in nature, I don't know. I feel like it's really helped kind of shape where I am now. What would you say for your own life, like being in nature and any of things like
Yeah. I think the more chaotic and the more unpredictable things get, the more I lock in and I shine. So I just love that part of being in the water because you really don't know what you get until you're in it.
that?
And
Yeah.
you got to make the most of it. And, not every day is the same. The conditions change a lot, even throughout the day. So you just got to use what you got, use your resources, and trust that it will be fine. I mean, and also traveling for the sport, it taught me like I missed a flight, I lost luggage, my phone signal isn't working, I'm in a different country, no one speaks the language, but there's a solution as long I trust myself and I put my efforts into it, I take action, you know, things come together.
Yeah.
Just trusting that, and taking action and having success in taking that action. One thing leads to the other thing. You just got to keep going and trust it.
Yeah, trust is a huge one. I mean, I love to
Mm-hmm.
use this saying of like things are always working in our favor or things are happening for us. It's very, very
Mm-hmm.
big in the personal development world. But when we put that lens on, like you said, a missed flight, well, okay, great. Now I have time to go get a coffee or, however you want to
Mm-hmm.
change it. Because both options are always available. You could freak
Mm-hmm.
out and be like, "Ugh," whatever, or you could, just be present and trust that, things are working out in your favor. Are there any
Mm-hmm.
specific like mental or emotional tools that you have for your own little toolbox when you feel like fear or frustration come up, or even like when, do you do races like pressure on the water or performances?
Yeah, I used to compete and I do, yeah, I did a bunch of performing. I still do. But that's not in water sports. I do aerial circus performances and stuff. So there's
Love
always
that.
a form of pressure and nerves or excitement. But I have one really concrete story. Like last year, I learned to subfoil, which is super challenging. You're on this narrow board, which is super tippy to stand on, and you have a pedal in your hand, and you're in big swell, and you use the energy of the swell and the pedal, the force of the pedal, to get up on foil to ride the waves or the river swell. And it's the most frustrating thing and the hardest thing I've ever learned. So I I had these moments where I just need to take a moment. I would sit down, close my eyes, straddle the board, and just take the longest inhales and exhales for like 5 or 6 deep breaths. And it would totally re-energize me and give me
Mm.
like bring me back to balance and back to strength. And every time I did that, I would get up on foil. So it became a really strong practice that I also use for other things. I mean, breath was always really important. I always recognized that that's the thing that calms me down, but it got really apparent last year when I learned that. I was like, wow, breath, just breathing makes the biggest difference.
Yeah, 100%. I've spoken that on a different podcast, The Power of the Breath, because you're actually
Mm-hmm.
bringing energy into different spots. And you said if you get up all frustrated in your head, by even like the simple act of breathing into your like stomach for,
Mm-hmm.
5, 10 breaths, you're bringing the energy down. So you're not up there. It's like
Mm-hmm.
incredible because it's such a valuable tool that it, I don't know. I wish more people would tap into it because you can shift your energy instantly by just
Mm-hmm.
focusing on your breath. So I love that you shared that story.
Yeah.
Being someone that leads with energy first, which you clearly do, how would you say that you yourself maintain that internal alignment with your body and your performance? When it comes to it's like being pushed to the edge, because you would, as an athlete, keep pushing yourself, but also knowing, like you said, when your body's had enough. It's like rest time versus like, no, I must get that rep in.
Yeah. Yeah, I have two things that are really important to me. And number one is exactly what you said. It's that rest and recovery. And for me, that's alone time. I need a lot of time by myself where I'm just sitting in my room, my cozy space, surrounded by my beautiful things and plants, my yoga mat, and some music, and just, move and feel my body,
Mm-hmm.
or even just do my journaling or just relax. And then on the opposite spectrum is I need my exercise. Like repetitive cardio is my favorite because I can run, but also let my thoughts run at the same time. So it's a way I process things, especially when things are hectic and busy. It's those two things, like alone time and my repetitive cardio or exercise.
Yeah.
And lifting weights kind of falls into that too, but yeah, it's those two things.
Yeah, I love that. So it's kind of like a
Mm-hmm.
physical and, well, it's all three combined, really. Like clearing your head,
Mm-hmm.
having your alone time, journaling things out, then also moving the energy, which I think is really incredible. Amazing.
Yeah.
What would you say, can you tell me about a time I have here that like your internal energy shifted, or was like there a time on your journey, like you said, in the beginning you were a bit doubtful, people started to tell you that, hey, you're really good at this thing, you should do it. Was there a time like that you noticed where was this instant shift that you finally believed it? That like going from like, oh, can I do it? I'm gonna try to do it to like, no, I'm doing the thing. I am
Mm-hmm.
her kind of.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? I don't know if I asked that.
Yeah, I don't remember an exact moment, but I have this really favorite quote that stuck with me and really changed how I looked at things. And the quote is, if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And I don't know where the quote came from or when it came to me, but I remember it coming to me in the right time, and it opened up a whole warm hole, or what do you call it? Rabbit hole? I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah, both work.
um,
A whole thing.
yeah, a whole thing of, oh yeah, if I focus on red cars, I will see red cars. I won't see the green cars, right? And
Yeah.
it's the same with like, even if I'm not feeling it, I can fake a smile and say like, fuck yeah, it's another awesome day. Let's go. And really realizing that I'm the one in charge of
Mm.
how I feel and think about things. And I choose if I want to focus on the negative or can I focus on the positive. And I remember growing up, my family was pretty negative, and also growing up in Austria, like people like to really emphasize the negative and focus on that. Whereas in the US, there's a little bit of a more positive attitude. And um, so I really worked hard to see the positive. And now my entire nature and outlook is super positive. And it's totally different from when I was a child or a teenager.
Yeah.
So I don't know when that shift happened, but little by little, I really did the
But now it's just a part
gratitude.
of you. It's just like who you
Yeah,
are.
exactly. Now it's
Yeah.
how I see the world. I don't see the negative. All
I
I
love
see is
that.
positive and solutions. And yes, there might be a problem, but that's just the next step to overcome to the positive again, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, exactly. Kind of what we touched
Mm-hmm.
on, a little earlier in the podcast. And I like to, I don't even know where this came from, but it's looking at life. Are we looking through the lens of obstacles? Are we looking through the lens of opportunities? And it's kind of like that
Mm-hmm.
same, like being positive or negative. Both are always available to us. It's our decision. And like you said, you're the one driving the car. You're the one in
Mm-hmm.
the driver's seat deciding that I'm going to have a great day because I'm going to have a great day. It's
Yeah.
almost as simple as that. I guess like my big thing is I always want listeners to realize that they've got that power, right? They've got that internal power available for them to tap into at all times, to really manifest a life that they desire versus just going through the motions, and
Mm-hmm.
not really settling. I don't know. I just feel like the mentality of behind what you're saying is so potent, right? It's literally
Mm-hmm.
just like a switch, and little by little, it takes time for it to become your new normal. So I
Mm-hmm.
feel like your mindset is, already doing that. Like you said, growing up, not even in that environment. Because I feel like a lot of people
Mm-hmm.
use the excuse as well, like that's not for me, because of their
Mm-hmm.
outside circumstances or where they came from. But I
Mm-hmm.
mean, prime example, you didn't have that kind of upbringing, and look where you are now.
Yeah. I mean, it takes work, repetition. You really gotta build these brain connections and wire new um, connections. But
Yeah.
it works. Like all of a sudden you wake up, you're like, wow, I'm actually a positive person.
Oh, shit, when
So
did that happen?
yeah, it's like, I don't know when, but I did it. I'm feeling so much better about myself now.
Yeah, and it's incredible too, like you said, just like even these little positive thoughts, like replacing a negative thought with a positive thought. Maybe while you're
Hmm.
doing it, it doesn't feel like you're shifting anything, but it's
Hmm.
stacking, it's
Hmm.
compounding, like you're heading in a
Yeah.
different direction. I heard something
Hmm.
the other day, which was pretty incredible, and it was like a great reminder. And it was basically talking about like a ship, you know, and like a sail ship or a motor ship, and if they tweak their dial, like their, the wheel, like the slightest
Hmm.
degree, and you leave it there in a new direction, it's going to end up in a completely different destination than if you kept it, straight on. And it's just like,
Hmm.
it doesn't have to be a full, like, keep turning the wheel kind of thing. And it's like, it's so true.
Hmm.
These little tweaks, but consistently over time, they
Hmm.
do add up. So yeah, I think that's, yeah,
Yeah.
really incredible.
Just
Yeah.
just 1% better every day
Yeah, that's
makes
it.
a huge
1%.
difference. Hmm.
Now, you're running these incredible retreats, right? They're merging the sports and the mindset and the energy. What would you
Hmm.
say for clients that you have that you see people missing when it comes to bridging this like mental gap of like, and physically, I mean, physically, obviously, you have to be a certain level to do the sport, but more the mental mastery. If they've never done this thing, like what's kind of your process with that?
Yeah, so I'll have to come back to the mindset component and the trust in yourself and the belief that you can actually do it. This is a big focus in our camps. Most of our retreats are female based, so they're specifically for women. And that is because we notice that women have a lot of like negative self-talk, a lot of like they bond over putting themselves down. They're like, no, it's not for me. I can't do this. But we really focus on encouraging, no, you can do it. And, if you think you can't, or if you think you can, you'll be right
Yeah.
either way, right? So we really work on changing that belief and breaking things down into little steps to be like, look, you can do this. This is just the first step. This is the whole thing. Yes, if you look at the whole part, of course it looks overwhelming and impossible, but let me show you this is where you start. And then we move to this, and then we'll put it all together, and you're right there with us. And yeah, during our retreats, we actually have a couple rules, which is no negative self-talk, which is a
Love
big
that.
one because we make the girls do push-ups when we hear them say something negative,
Oh,
and
really?
it
That's
really
funny.
makes it apparent how much. And I catch myself, and people catch me saying things like, "Oh, I look chubby in these pants" or whatever. Okay, here we go. I'm doing push-ups. It just shows at the end of a week, you really notice how powerful your language is, and
Mm,
what a difference it makes to just be kind to yourself and believe that you can, and also celebrate your wins. Just showing up. We're like, yes, high five. We showed up. You got your wetsuit on. This was really hard today. Good job. Just
yeah.
celebrating the little things. You don't need to do this grand maneuver. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to show up and try and celebrate it.
I love that. I would say, yeah, going back to the wetsuit, I feel like sometimes that's the hardest part.
Yeah,
Getting
exactly.
it
Like,
on and off, especially when you're freezing.
it's like, who did that?
Oh, I love that. The
Proud. I'm
push-ups
proud.
are great. I should implement that. I should actually tell Cody about that one.
Yeah, it's a good one because
It's a great one.
it just shows how often it comes up. Like, we wouldn't
Yeah,
talk to our friends like that. Why be so unkind to ourselves?
100%. And everything, I mean, I'm huge on energy. It carries a frequency. It's like that study, I spoke about this on a different episode, but speaking to your plants or speaking to the water crystals, speaking really not great
Mm,
language versus speaking really, loving, gratitude, celebrating kind of language, how it affected it. It's like
hmm.
incredible. It's, yeah, people self-talk. They really, yeah, should look into that. Okay, so can
Yeah.
you share a memorable moment, let's say, where you witnessed during a retreat either a woman having a breakthrough or something they didn't know they had, or, just something that with your students that you thought was like really transformative for yourself, or it was kind of like maybe even that little like wink from the universe to you that, hey, this is where I'm meant to be. Do you have any
Yeah,
experiences
totally.
like that?
Yeah, so many. I mean, we've done so many retreats now, and we have a couple rituals we do, and one we do as a closing ritual, and that's called the love seed. So at the final dinner at our retreat, we surprise the group with this exercise called the love seed. So one person sits in the love seat for 2 minutes, and everyone else around the table tells them what they love about that person, what they noticed about them, what inspired them about them. And um, people feel so seen and loved and supported. And it usually ends with everyone crying and feeling really, overwhelmed, but in a positive way. And just realizing that I am seen, I am supported, I am celebrated. It's just such a powerful reminder, like how important a like-minded community is.
Yeah, 100%. I love that. The love seat. You make
Mm-hmm.
them do push-ups and then you shower them with love in the end.
Now, perfect. And
Oh,
also,
that's
like,
yeah.
sorry, throughout the week, we make them write little love notes to kind of prepare them for this exercise. But then everyone is being sent home with this envelope of love notes from everyone that you can pull out when you have a bad day and be like, oh, reading those notes, bringing you back to a positive place.
Oh, I love that. So it's not just like
Hmm.
coming to a retreat. How long are they? A week?
Yeah, just a week, 8 days.
8 days. Yeah. So 8 days together, but then you get to bring a little bit with you, which is really, really
Hmm.
special. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
I've met some incredible people, not in sports retreats. Oh, did I do any sports retreats? I don't know. Just traveling over the years when you go into retreats, you end up mixing with a great group of people doing, something that you love doing. So I think that's really,
Hmm.
really awesome. Um, so if someone listening feels stuck or afraid or even just like really disconnected from their own potential, what advice do you have for them or give them to start kind of just getting past that and like fucking doing it and moving forward?
I know. I always like to say taking action is the antidote to everything. So if you're feeling stuck or you don't know what to do, it's like just take one step. And I know it's hard and it's like, but I'm not sure if it's the right step. Well, taking one step will bring you to the next and it might open up some doors, just again, coming back to pushing a little bit into the edges of your comfort zone. You don't need to take a step outside of it, but just, explore a little, take some action, do one little thing at a time, and then that will expand your comfort zone and bring you to the next thing.
Yeah, I love that. I always say action leads to clarity. Like you're not going to know if like this was the right move because you've made it up in your head. So you have to actually, physically do it to know. So
Hmm.
yeah, I love what you've said there. Is there a belief that you've had about your own limits that you had to release or one that comes to mind when you want to reach the level that you're at, reaching, it's not just like doing the sport, but reaching a professional level?
Yeah, I had a really uh, deep belief. Like, this is a very concrete and physical example, but I had a very deep belief that my body just can't backflip. And I never was able to do backflips on the trampoline or into a foam pit. And during my wing foil journey, I got into freestyle. And then I got to the point where, like, okay, I need to do backflips, like to keep up with the trend and everything. We got to go for that trick. So I started out visualizing first and just feeling into it and doing it over and over again just in my head. And then I went to a trampoline gym and hired a coach and just learned the proper technique and also a step-by-step approach that really wasn't scary. It totally took away the fear. And then when it came to the water time, I just decided, okay, I gotta start with the first thing first. The first thing was just I was so afraid to land on my head or my back. I was like, okay, I guess I just huck myself onto my back a couple times and see how that feels. And it turned out it was not bad at all. It was really just a splash in the water and totally undramatic. I built it up to be such
Yeah.
a huge thing in my head, and it turned out to, be nothing, really nothing. So every time I do backflips, I'm just laughing now because I'm like, I can't believe my mind just held me back so much where it was never a physical limitation. I just never even tried hard enough.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
love everything you've said there. And the first thing that came out of your mouth was I visualized it. I saw in my head a few times of me doing
Hmm.
backflips. And I mean the power of visualization because your mind, your subconscious mind doesn't know what's real and what's not. And I
Hmm.
speak about this quite a lot. And there's an example, or who was it? Jerry Lopez says this in one of his documentaries. He's like pipe master, the like guru. He
Hmm.
had never, I don't even know if he had started surfing, but he used to meditate when he was younger and he was laying on this rock and he just saw himself surfing pipe, like surfing that ridiculous wave, and then obviously
Uh-huh.
became like world champion, which is
Uh-huh.
incredible. But it's just like, wow, people, like if you just visualize where you want to be and like, and like you said, it was completely a made up mental block in your head,
Mhm.
not even a physical thing, which is incredible. But it's incredible that you can fucking flip backwards on a foil. That would scare the shit
Yeah.
out of me. I could not.
Start visualizing.
Yeah, I know, right? I have had some really cool dreams actually with the sup that I'm surfing like big waves on it. And I'm like, I don't know about that, but we'll
Ooh,
see.
maybe
We'll
that
see.
was a, pre-vision.
Yeah, pre-vision of what's to come. We'll see
Uh-huh.
after the last experience I had winging.
No, I can see you do it.
Yeah, can you? Okay,
Yeah.
great. Maybe that positive reinforcement. Now,
Uh-huh.
looking forward for you on your journey, what would you say is your big vision? How would you like to see your work, rippling out and impacting women? Like, where are your camps? Your camps are pretty international, correct?
Yeah, they're Mexico, Brazil, US, like all over the place, really. We switch it up quite a bit too.
Yeah, I love that. So what's your big vision?
Um, I just want to get people out into nature and into the water and connect with the elements again because I think most people live up in their heads and they're so
Mm.
disconnected from their physical body and from nature, where I'm like, that's such a place of joy and accomplishment. And I just want to share that with people and bring people back to play a bit more and feel
Yeah,
the joy that I feel when I'm
I
in
love
the
that.
water.
I
And with
love
that, also all the, you get stronger, you get so many health benefits from just doing the thing and being.
Yeah. Well, just being out there, just reconnecting. Like, I feel like
Hmm.
we definitely should spend more time in nature, 100%. And I love that.
Hmm.
If you could leave the audience with, one either quote or energetic imprint or a takeaway or a lesson, what would that be for today?
I have to just go back to go play outside, connect with nature and the elements, be kind to others, and don't be so hard on yourself.
Yeah, I love that. So
Simple,
amazing.
very
Thank you
basic.
so much for coming, Nadia. I really,
Yeah.
really appreciate you sharing your story with us, bringing your wisdom and your energy to this space. It has been an honor. You are such a reflection of what's possible when you live from that full body trust and just that inner knowing and accomplishing, moving through the fear. So I would
Yeah.
love for you to tell everyone, where they can find you, how they can book retreats with you, how they can book your coaching as well. And I will pop it all in the show notes. But if you want to go ahead and tell the audience.
Yeah, totally. You can find me on social media. My name is Nadja Bianchet. You can find my coaching under rolfhealthcoaching.com, and then all the camps and retreats in the sports you can find under strutkiteandwing.com.
Fantastic. I'll pop that all in the show notes so they have all the spelling. I didn't know how to say your last name before otherwise. I said it.
I
Can you
can
say it again? Bianca?
Bianchet.
Bianchet. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Great.
it's
I got it now.
Italian.
And fantastic. And to all the listeners, thank you for sharing your time and your energy with us today. If this episode sparks something inside you, share it, tag us, connect, rate it, do all those things. If you are feeling that spark and looking to connect, you can always DM me the word magnetic and we can have a chat. And as always, thank you for tuning in. I'll catch you guys next week.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.